Hi everyone. So today is Wednesday, September the 21st. Today is a very interesting day because technically today is not technically. People celebrate or think of today as the Equinox because it's the 21st and there's something about the 21st date. However, actually speaking, tomorrow is the equinox. If you really follow the stars and the sun and the moon and everything, actually it's tomorrow, not today. So that's very interesting. Because there's so much so much that that can be said and that is symbolic about equinoxes. Equinox comes from the word comes first of all from equal, nox, night, where the night is equal to the day, and that is quite significant on a on a range of levels. So so tomorrow is a day that actually the Jewish community celebrates as some holiday. I don't know the Jewish word, so I won't butcher it by mispronouncing it and saying it wrongly. But anyways, tomorrow is that Jewish holiday because I guess I have to say the Jewish culture and the Jewish religion, they actually have it correct in terms of what is going on, sun, moon, stars wise, let's say. And sun, moon, and stars are, if you will, those there are basically 8 elements. People only talk about, regular people talk about 4 elements, the fire, then air, fire, earth, water, air, but then there's ether, and that's the 5th. But then actually, and this is a Vedic thing, there are 8, and those 8 are the sun, moon, and the stars. The stars are the 8th element that that almost every culture back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I mean kind of like before and after the time of Jesus. Like it kind of all fell apart like about 400 years after Jesus. Yeah, that's, and that also coincided with the fall of the Roman Empire, and all these other things that happened. And then right now, sort of this epoch that we live in is actually, we like to think of the 1600s, 1500s even, as ancient history. It is so not. Like this is like neo history. This is like new, the last 400 years ish. Because if you go way back, to Samaria, the Iron Age, all this type of history, not these days. If you talk about ancient history, people think 1500s max. They don't go past that point, which I feel like that's just yesterday. In if you want to make any sort of real forecast with any kind of meat to it. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so Samaria and whatnot, though, and the Iron Age and everything. All these, they go in like these 1500 year cycles, and or not cycles, or not specifically 1500, it varies, but every 1500, 1600 years. And this is actually something that I'm forgetting his name right now, but he gave a great lecture. He's like a PhD doctor, physicist or quantum physics guy, or maybe not quantum. He writes about complexity theory actually, and I first encountered his work in one of Jim Rickards's books, I think, on it was a finance book, but it's about the monetary system. And I heard about this guy, and he was Jim Rickards was referencing his work on complexity theory, and so I'm very interested in that kind of thing, and so I looked him up, and these days, you can find anything you're looking for pretty much. And I found these old lectures of his online on YouTube, like long lectures, which I listen to on 2x speed while gardening, doing all sorts of things. So I listened to all of it. It was just absolutely brilliant. Like, why don't they show this in school? Why do they waste children's time with garbage stuff that computers can do for you now? They should. This is where the teaching is meant to be. Anyways, so I listened to many of his lectures, and then one of his lectures, which was like, I think only 2 hours long or something, I posted it on my LinkedIn, which I'm sure nobody watches a 2-hour lecture. But anyways, but this guy, this scientist, physicist, whatever, I don't know. He spoke about how as the complexity of things increases, so too the failure points, and those failure points are much harder to pinpoint, because you do not know how far-reaching. I mean, they call it the butterfly effect and all that, but he went way beyond this whole butterfly effect thing. It's more like you do one small thing here, and you have no idea where the ripple effects of that truly are. Okay, and he said this very interesting thing, which is the last big collapse happened like prior to Rome. That was 1500 years ago, and this guy, this scientist, he studied a lot about, I think, was it the Iron Age, the Sumerian thing? Yeah, I think it was the Iron Age. Anyways, something that was 1500 years before the Roman Empire. And you know what was crazy about everything he said was sort of similar things are happening now with refugee crisis, with immigration, all those sorts of things that are kind of ticklish and kind of controversial and all that, about like, well, do you want to be a xenophobe and a nationalist, or do you want to be inclusive globalist, but at the cost of completely destroying your country? Like, which, and there are so many fine lines between everybody's views on this, right? Like, I mean, why am I want to talk about immigration? I migrated to the United States from India, so I'm in no position to like make any comment about immigration or any of that, or like, to have or not to have. That's not the question. To be or not to be, that is not the question. Yeah, to have immigration policies that are more easygoing or not, or what, how much aid do you offer people who need it or not, or what, like those, that's not what I'm talking about here. But those problems, those events that then become problems, those occur in similar cycles and time frames. And this guy too, this scientist, was not talking about immigration. The things he was describing though about what had occurred then, right, in that culture when the Iron Age was happening, was I was listening to it and I was like, whoa, everything here can be applied to the United States and to like Europe, as in like Western world Europe, and I was just blown away by that. Anyways, complexity theory. And why does this matter culturally and whatever wise? So right now, and why do I say the Jewish people have this right? In the old Jewish texts, which they're the only ones who kind of kept their stuff, because in Catholicism and the Roman Catholic Church, which was almost trying to like centralize religion, because if you actually listen to what Jesus said, like what Jesus really said, okay, and that's in the Gospel of Thomas, which people only talk about the 4 Gospels, right? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They don't talk about Thomas, but Thomas went to India, and so maybe some of his stuff has like stuck around in my Indian psyche. But a lot of the Gospel of Thomas was actually is actually there in the Torah and in the very, very ancient stuff of the Jews, or Judaism rather. And so this is very interesting, because a lot of those, the Gospel of Thomas, what he says, is about how is about honoring your own divinity, and that's why, maybe because the centralized powers don't like things to be too decentralized. I mean, obviously, right? Centralized doesn't like decentralized. You could say, well, duh. He's like the opposition, right? But no, really speaking, like decentralized things, when a country is very nationalist and like maintains their own like supply chain and everything, those are things that become quite threatening. Now, if the country is very big, well, still, if each county has their own like centralized or their own decentralized mechanisms of operating, the central, larger, wider ones get very threatened by that, because they're like, whoa, all these people are doing their own thing, we want some control here. And that's what it's really about, control versus decentralization, control versus freedom. And when you think about that, and you pull that back to complexity theory, what you begin to realize is that as the control structures like to centralize all these decentralized bits and try to impose one order, right? And this is kind of what happened during the time of, I think, Charlemagne, tried to do something like that in Europe. And then actually the Charlemagne system, it has tried to come back many times. In fact, I think this whole, like the euro currency, that, they started doing that kind of thing in 1990 or 1996 or 1999. I don't know when the exact treaty, Maastricht Treaty, was it? I don't know. Whenever that was signed, that was like in the mid or late 90s, I think. That is all this Charlemagne experiment, pretty much. And the Charlemagne was what, in the whatever 600 year or 1200 year, something, maybe 600 year, I'm not sure, around that time. But so all of this stuff, right? This has been like ongoing. People have been trying to do this, but as you try to do this with people who are varied and diverse in their ways of being, you build a structure that has so much complexity to it that then you pull one thread of that blanket and the whole damn thing unravels, right? And right now, that is where we are. That is literally where we are. And I'm talking now about the financial system. Because right now we're in such a position where, you may say, oh, come on, like, something, okay, let's take what happened with Japanese yen, for example. Okay, they need to keep their they need to do they want to keep, does the Japanese yen want to control inflation, or like, not the Japanese yen, does the Japanese government want to manage the inflation, i.e. not devalue their currency, or do they want to support their alliance with America, who is covertly protecting them from their neighborhood of Russia and China? What do they want? This is just, one example, right? So far they've been devaluing their currency badly. Their people, like, it's, because they are very stoic. Well, though, that's under question. How stoic are they? One guy went up, like, assassinated the former prime minister or the current prime minister? Some guy, right? Shinzo Abe. Now, that's a sign of, like, when people of that culture were very stoic, right? Start doing assassinations and that kind of thing, then like, that's a massive canary. That's a canary that's like screaming like mad in the bloody coal mine, right? So yeah, so it's a herald of what's going on. But okay, let's take that further. So suppose they say, you know what, yeah, we can't do this. Like, suppose that was an actual sign to these people, right? And they go, oh crap, like, we can't afford to have our people break out into this. This is clearly like people are reaching their breaking point, and they decide to do something about that. So what does that mean? That's an interesting question. So if they say, you know what, forget this, we're going to strengthen our currency, like really strengthen our currency, not even just, allow the dollar to rise a little bit, and it's a win-win, the dollar rises, the yen, like, kind of, the dollar strengthens, the markets tank, and like, we'll also, we'll like ease things a little bit. We won't buy as many dollars. Actually, no, we won't buy as many dollars. We'll, sorry, just what I just said, put that in reverse. We won't buy as many dollars. We'll allow the Japanese yen to strengthen a little bit. Then the dollar will weaken a little bit, or it'll, it won't weaken. It'll just go strong relative to the euro. So that way, then, then our markets get a little better, or the dollar weakens a little bit. Our markets get better, or the dollar, keeps getting strong and the markets get weak at the cost of Europe instead of Japan. I'm not talking that kind of a thing, okay? Because that's just like small little tweaks. What I'm saying is that if Japan actually says,